This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. I'm Kyle, joined by Timmy G. What's up, Tim? How you doing?
Doing really well. Starting to get into that Thanksgiving. So work is super busy, but we're going to get some good football hopefully on Thanksgiving. So I'm excited.
We have a chaotic stretch. I mean, as you see, we are without Keenan once again while we're doing picks, but we had a good draft last time. We had a good flow last time. We missed Keenan, but might get chaotic on here. You know, Tim was talking about Danny DeVito last time, so never know what might happen on this show. But like Tim said, we got 12 games tomorrow and Monday, heading toward the postseason. Then we got Thanksgiving, 3 games, Black Friday game, and then a full slate next Sunday, maybe 9 games. I'm not really sure. I haven't looked at it, but you'll see us do picks at some point during the Thanksgiving break. So hopefully everyone's safe during this Thanksgiving time. But Tim, what are you most looking forward to during this stretch? Not necessarily just this week, but this whole entire stretch of football. Because Thanksgiving's really where football season gets started for certain teams, for playoff teams.
We definitely had this conversation last year, and I think my tone was more of the line of, we're at Thanksgiving, and there's 18 teams that can make the playoffs. I think this year that's not quite the case. I think we have a solid 10 teams that are out of it already. You could go all the way down to the Cowboys. I'm pretty sure they're the 10th worst team right now statistically. They're not making the playoffs. We know this. So it's definitely a lot less teams, I think. But what I'm most excited for is the teams that are going to necessarily turn it around and make that playoff push. One of them right now, I'll just say, is the Buccaneers. I think they got a great schedule. They're below 500. They're 5-6 right now. So they need to make this push, and they could potentially even win their division if they win out or only lose 1 or 2 games and make it there. So
they really could. They have a very soft schedule, especially the next 3 weeks, starting tomorrow with the Giants. Everything broke right for them. I mean, specifically Atlanta losing to the Broncos last week. That's a well-timed schedule loss for them because I think, Atlanta, a dome team going on the road to Denver was just a tough ask anyway. And the Bucs have lost, 2 straight at least, maybe even 3 straight since that
3,
Mike
all
Evans.
the way back. Yep, since Mike Evans got hurt in the Ravens game. They lost that Ravens game.
And low-key, I think I mentioned this in their past episode, Saints kind of have a shot at the division too, at 4-7. I'm not as bullish on them. I think their schedule might even be a little tougher. But for the Bucs got Giants tomorrow, I believe the Panthers next Sunday. And then I'm not sure what –
Panthers twice, and then they got the Saints again. So, realistically, that could be 4 wins, the way they've been playing. So, I think they're going to get there. I think they're going to be ready to win this division.
So, you think Atlanta falls out completely?
I don't know about falling out completely, but I think they'll be a game or 2 behind. I think they fall out of the playoff picture. With the NFC South, it's tough. It's you have to win the division to make it in, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we're getting 2 NFC South teams.
And I don't even think I want that. I think it would be better to put a different division team in there, probably NFC North.
So do you think Tampa gets this at 9 or 10 wins? Or even 8? Do you think they can even bottom out at 8 and still win it?
I don't think 8 will do it. Let me peek at their schedule. I think they can get to 10 for sure. The way they've been playing, they can literally beat any team. With those division games, it's tough. So they got the Giants, the Panthers, then the Raiders. The Chargers, I think, is an L. And then they got the Cowboys, the Panthers again, and the Saints. So it is a pretty cupcake schedule.
It's favorable.
Very, very favorable. So I think they can get to 10. That's where I'm going to book it right now, is I think they get to 10. And that's enough to win the division at 10-7.
I would have to look at Atlanta's schedule, but between the NFC South and the NFC West, and, we'll talk about this when we're doing picks, but 49ers obviously take a hit. We were just talking about this pre-show. Brandon Allen in place of Brock Purdy. I would assume that's only a 1-game substitution type thing. He was ruled out pretty late in the week. But, man, it seems like if the Niners lose this game, unless maybe I mean, obviously we got Arizona and the Seahawks going against each other, but if the Rams lose to the Eagles, okay, that does wonders for the Niners a little bit, but it really seems like they got to win this game. Mathematically, they'll still be in it, but this game seems very important. And who knows, like you said, Kyle Shanahan's the backup quarterback whisperer. Maybe they can at least put the fear of God in Green Bay, but I'm kind of skeptical. This game was already giving me trouble. I didn't know who I was going to pick. Now you'll see who I pick here soon. I'm not going to say it right now, but that game's super intriguing to me. Let's get into it right now, actually. You want first pick or you want second pick this time?
I'll take second. I took it last time, and I took it the time when Keenan was on too, I think. So,
you know what? Let's go with that one because that one truly intrigues me the most out of all these games. There's one game particularly on the schedule that I love the best, like I'm looking forward to the most, but Packers-Niners. I mean, so you said it before. Right before we got on, you tell me it goes from 2.5 Green Bay to 5.5 Green Bay. And I said I was surprised that it wasn't all the way up to 7.5. I can't think of any Brandon Allen highlight moments personally. I don't even know. Was he on San Francisco's roster last year behind Darnold?
I don't believe so. I've never seen him play a snap.
So
I got nothing.
I mean, the only reason I can think that it's 5.5 is they're really thinking it's a kitchen sink game, which of course it is. It definitely is. But if Brandon Allen has no ability, it almost doesn't even matter if it's a kitchen sink game. You know what I mean? That being said, if you told us a few years ago this guy Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant, is backing up Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think any of us would have had confidence in him. And lo and behold, what happened? So for one game, maybe, especially if he was taking first team reps all week, maybe. But I'm shocked at this line being 5.5. I do not have a score as of right now. I want to hear how you're analyzing this game.
I think you said it. I think this is a kitchen sink game. I think Shanahan is going to have to reach so deep into his bag of tricks to make this a competitive football game. They're going to need defense. They're going to need Brandon Allen to play solid. The only thing that I can think of is Brandon Allen comes out, and in the first quarter, he just looks so bad. But it's only like a 10-point game at that point. The next quarterback on their roster is Joshua Dobbs, who we saw last year play solid for like 3 of his 6 games that he started. So maybe they throw in Dobbs and he can come out and kind of play really well. But
I'm kind of shocked that they're not starting him, honestly.
That was my confusion too, was because when I saw that Dobbs was on the roster, I was like, this man has game experience. We've seen him win games. They beat the Cowboys last year with Dobbs on the Cardinals, that pitiful team.
And he's mobile.
He is mobile. He can get out there. I think they're just scared of him. He's a kind of scary looking fella. So I'm going to roll here with the Packers. I do not have them covering. Like I said, I think this is a kitchen sink game. I think we are going to see a ton of stuff. Maybe we see Debo run it 10 times. This is kind of a situation where the 49ers season is on the line. They need to get these wins to be able to make it into this playoff picture realistically. Because, yes, they're still in it, but there are a lot of teams in the NFC that have an easier path to the playoffs than the 49ers do.
You want some Brandon Allen stats real quick?
Yeah.
All right, so he was Cincinnati's backup 2020, 21, and 22. All right, that's the last time he appeared in the NFL was 22. Before that, in 19, he was Denver's backup. Career record 2-7. All right. Then we got 10 touchdowns to 6 picks. Uninspiring. Better touchdown to interception ratio, but still uninspiring. I think just by reading that, let's say he is bad, I think we could see Dobbs in this game, which in that case, they're probably already down double digits. They're going to need a lot of defense in this game. You're correct. I can't get all the way there. I'm going to roll with Green Bay. And honestly, Green Bay, they haven't even been great. I've said it multiple times on this podcast. They've kind of always been in the sleeper contender category for me. I was thinking even Super Bowl for them at one point in the preseason. And I still think they're going to be in the playoffs. I think they're going to be a scary team in the playoffs, but they haven't seemed to hit on all cylinders yet. Jordan Love's been injured pretty much all year, it seems like, between that knee and then now the groin a couple weeks back. I'm still like, I got this score in my head, like between 22-17, 24-17. I'm going to go 24-17 Packers. I do think the Niners can keep it in the game. I mean, we'll really see. Brandon Allen, I'm hugely skeptical, but it's the most quarterback friendly offense you can play in, specifically backup quarterback friendly offense. So Brandon Allen should at least be able to, if not get you one touchdown, he should at least be able to get you into the red zone, inside the 5 with McCaffrey, with Debo. I think Kittle's going to try and play. That being said, Niners haven't been good inside the red zone, even with all their guys, which is very interesting. 24-17, valiant effort, but the Pack get away with a victory. And then lots of questions for San Francisco moving forward as far as can they get in, et cetera, et cetera.
I think pretty much when you just said you were like, I'm booking this as like a 22-17, 24-17 game. My score is 22-17. I think the Packers get the W here. I just don't think the 49ers have enough of a team right now. Without Purdy, without CMC at full strength, without Debo being what Debo normally is, Kittle is coming into this game questionable. There's just so many question marks with the 49ers. I think the Packers are going to be able to pull out this W. Yeah, the Packers are a playoff team. They're 7-3, and they haven't even looked great.
Exactly.
Like they have the record of a great team, but they haven't looked up to snuff. So
And
maybe
had
this is like a
reason
tighten up game for them.
and had reason to bow out too. Honestly, I mean, not necessarily bow out, but those games they had with Malik Willis early, none of us would have batted an eye had they lost those. And we're fighting for a wild card spot right now. But they've been ahead of schedule, given the backup how much time he's gotten. And Jordan Love again not playing well, leading the league in interceptions, and still at 7-3. What do you think the final score is if the Niners do pull off a miracle here? Do you think it's super low scoring? Do you think it's like 16-10? Do you think they can hang offensively with the Pack?
I think it would be a little bit more low scoring. I don't necessarily think that they can hang into the 20s with Brandon Allen. So if I think I'm picking a win, I think it's got to be like an 18-16 game where it's like, they go for a 2-point conversion or something like that. And that's like the difference in this game. I think most of their red zone trips are going to end in field goals. They're just not looking great in the red zone, and I don't have any more confidence with Brandon Allen here. So unless the defense is scoring touchdowns, I'm going to put it, in the teens. Maybe they get to 20, but that's like really where I'd book it.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario for the Niners, especially with this game being in Green Bay, which again, not good for San Francisco, might even be some snow. Best case scenario is if Green Bay's looking ahead to Thanksgiving for that Dolphins nightcap. That's really it. And I don't see it with Green Bay. I don't know if they're going to be hitting on all cylinders necessarily, but I think they'll be ready, and I think they'll take care of business. Your pick.
I am most intrigued by Sunday Night Football, or this might even be Monday Night Football. We get the John Harbaugh Bowl. Yeah, the Harbaugh. We get Ravens Chargers. Ravens are 2.5-point favorites on the road in LA. It's something to say that they're in LA, but LA still doesn't really have that fan base. So it's not like, they're not going to Seattle. They're not going to Denver. They're not going to any like crazy place to play. The Ravens are also pretty decent on the road. I think what we get here is a welcome to the NFL game from the Ravens. I think they beat them pretty handedly here. After losing a tough one last week, I think they go on the road and they show them that we're the big dogs and give Jim a tough one here. So I got it 34-20. I think they lay it on them.
I like it. My question is, who are they welcoming to the NFL?
I guess welcome back to the NFL.
I got you. That's true.
He gets his little hiatus.
That's true. The Chargers really have not had a bad loss, or like not a blowout loss by any means this year. They've either outright won or, unless you want to say that Steelers game where Herbert went out, I think they might have lost by double digits, but even that game was mostly competitive. This is my favorite game of the week. I think it's going to be the best matchup, this and possibly the Sunday night game. I do think the Ravens win. I agree with you. I think it'll be closer. I have a hard time believing that the Ravens are going to go 7-5. Like I can't wrap that around my brain. They're going to be, like you said, they're going to be in LA, so it should be good weather. This is a lights out offense. If we're talking Ravens, and we saw that the Chargers can keep up in the case of the Bengals. In their case, last week they had a head start, really not as much as keeping up, but even when the Bengals offense started to get going, Chargers were okay. Um, you know what? I kind of see this going the way you got it. I could see the Ravens pulling away. I could see it being a little too much. But at the end of the day, like I just cannot see the Ravens going 7-5. Could I see the Chargers beating the Ravens in general, hypothetically? Sure. But you got it 34-20. I'm going to say 31-23. And even that seems sizable for this Chargers defense. But yeah, I think this is, you know, who I think we see a lot of in this game is Derrick Henry. He's been quiet the last few weeks. I could see them really pounding the rock with him. In most cases, you would say like, oh, that means this is going to be lower scoring. But Henry at his best this year has been so explosive. It's just been additive to their offense. Lamar's still just as explosive. So they could still get their 30 and, still pound the rock with Derrick Henry. Game I'm choosing next, though, unless you had any more comments on that game, I'm going to go with Lions and Colts. I think this is going to be a super fun game. It's in Indianapolis, I believe. Let me see. We got Detroit favored by 7.5 at Indianapolis. We saw them bring back Anthony Richardson last week. He looked as explosive as he always should have looked. You really never know what you're getting with Anthony Richardson when it comes to passing the ball. At least he can't really make touch passes. He can throw the ball downfield. He can make breathtaking passes sometime. And obviously we know his running ability, which they seem to be letting him get loose a little more when it comes to that. So I think we're going to get high scoring. I'm actually going to go with the same exact score you had for the previous game. I'm going to go 34. You know what? Actually, we're going to give them a little more points for the Colts. 34-24 Lions in the most fun game of the weekend. I really think it's going to be just bonanza, especially when you add the Anthony Richardson factor to it, where he might throw a 99-yard pick six. You just never know. You just never know with him. So, yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I think the Lions are going to continue to just put pressure on these teams, run up and down all on them, whether it's in the return game, whether it's with the dual backs with Gibbs and Montgomery, or whether it's Goff just throwing it all over the yard. Jameson Williams had his explosive play. Seems like that's mandatory when he's playing at least once a week. So I think we see more of him. So, yeah, man, I can't see Detroit scoring less than 28 in this game, honestly. So 34-24 Lions heading into Thanksgiving.
That is a very close score to what I have. I think there's a 50-50 chance we get two types of games. I think there's a chance we get a blowout, a Detroit stomping where it's, 31-6 again or something like that, where their defense just comes alive. Anthony Richardson looks bad, throws picks, fumbles. Maybe they put Flacco back in. The Colts are a confusing team. They were on the verge. They said Flacco was our quarterback for the remainder of the season. He played 2 games, and then they went right back to Anthony Richardson. We got to see some good from Anthony Richardson, but we've seen a lot of bad from him. So I think against a defense like Detroit, we'll probably see some bad. I have it really close to you. The other side of the coin is a game like we're predicting here. So I got it 31-23. I think they'll have a chance to win the game. It's an 8-point game here is what I have it. So I think they'll have a chance to win it. I just don't think that they have any clutch in them. I think Detroit's going to prove that they are that Super Bowl contender. I really want this game to be a 40-4 game or whatever and just make it disgusting and just whatever it is. But
I mean, if they can turn Anthony Richardson over, it's a chance it's like that Titans game from a few weeks back, right? Because he is so turnover prone, you would be in plus field position, and they're going to convert on that. Like their offense is just that good, that multifaceted, where they're going to convert on that type of situation. So the Lions have a type of offense and just team in general. They're so explosive. 40 is just easy for them, right? Like we said, like I can't imagine them not getting 28, especially in the dome. The Colts are going to be pushing the pace, I believe. You know what I mean? So I think we're going to see a lot of Anthony Richardson, which would lend to it being closer to 40 than the 30s where we got it, honestly. So I do not see the Colts winning, though. I mean, I tried to almost talk myself into this being a trap game for Detroit with them having their, typical Thanksgiving game, but them going in with one loss, like it's just something we've never really seen with this team. Having that much momentum, that much mojo, that much swag going into the Thanksgiving game. Uh, but I can't do it. I can't see a world where Anthony Richardson actually goes in and just defeats them. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun, entertaining game either way. What you got next?
I think there are 2, maybe 3 good games left. So hopefully we pick them.
It's a weird slate. It really is. I don't really know. I'm kind of scared of tomorrow's slate, honestly. We're talking.
There's going to be like an upset or 2 that's just like shocking.
I think so.
I guess we already technically got one with the Browns. Not for us. We all picked it.
We all
right?
picked it.
we damn near nailed it. Every single one of us was in like 6 points within the correct score. So I'm going to go with the Eagles-Rams game. Now, this is Sunday Night Football, yeah?
Yep, for sure.
Okay. I had them backwards. Eagles are 2.5-point favorites on the road. So I guess we get 2 LA games back-to-back. The Eagles have, since the bye, the Eagles have come out and looked like that Super Bowl team from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever they went 2 years ago. I'm such a Rams fan. I wanted to pick them so bad. Like, I just want to find a way that Stafford just, throws for 4 touchdowns, 350 yards, and they win this game. I just can't do it. I think the the Eagles are better offensively and defensively, and I think they're going to give Stafford some fits. So I got it 27-22, pretty handedly covering the 2.5-point spread.
It's funny, like the previews I've seen for this game or that I've been listening to this week and lead up to Sunday's games. A lot of people, kind of like how we're talking about the Niners, like this is a kitchen sink game for the Rams too. So a lot of people are on the Rams. I see it more like you. I think the Eagles are just better. And they very much look like a contender. If you had to ask me right now if that, like what the NFC Championship game was going to be, I'd probably lean toward Lions-Eagles. The Eagles are super weird to me, even with their record. Even with them, I think they're on 5-game win streak right now, I believe.
I don't think they've lost since the bye week, and they had it week 6. So
yeah.
I think they're 5-game win streak.
So they're weird to me in the fact that they got A.J. Brown, they got Saquon, Hurts seems to be healthy, Devontae Smith, and that defense, as you said, is playing really well, especially since the bye. Like that defense is really forming into shape. And yet I still don't think they've been as explosive as they could be. I think they've been like almost like Green Bay, a little more crisp than Green Bay, but like a tad less explosive than what they could be. Seems like they could get to 30 whenever they wanted if everything was clicking on all cylinders. And it doesn't seem to be yet. So I don't know if they're just not as good as their record or if they're not hitting their peak yet, kind of like the Packers. So they confuse me, but I do trust them than the majority of the NFC teams. I think it's going to get super fucking weird with this NFC in this Thanksgiving stretch. I truly do. But I do think the Eagles will be one of the teams you can trust. I'm going to pick them in this game as well. I actually have them winning by 8. I'm going to go 31-23 Eagles.
For this game, Devonta Smith is out.
Is he?
They already ruled him out. So
let's go. Just because of that, we'll go 27-23.
Damn, he moves the line 4 points.
27-20. How about that? 7 points.
Gotcha.
I think their defense shows up. There we go. We'll go 27-20. We got me now. Let's go with the AFC East battle. Pats Dolphins. Dolphins are a 7 or 7.5 point favorite. Let me see. 7.5. There's a world where the Pats do win this game. The Pats are one of the weirdest teams in the league for me. And I think you and Keenan have talked about this. It seems like when it's the Dolphins, a team like the Dolphins where they got an offense, in the Dolphins' case, even have a little bit of a defense this year. It seems like that's the type of team the Pats will put points up on. And it seems like when they're playing a team like the Titans or the Bears, it's an uglier game. Those are two good defenses, but it just seems like they play an ugly type of game when it's a lesser team all around, less explosive team. I could see this game being damn near a shootout. I could see it being lower 20s too. That seems like the Dolphins. Seems like the Dolphins play that type of game when they got a well-rounded team. Um, the Patriots just aren't very well coached right now, but they still find themselves in all these games. Like the only team they've really been blown out by is the Texans. So I'm leaning towards something like a 24-20 game to the Dolphins. I do think they get it done here with the Pats. I cannot wait to talk about the Dolphins Green Bay game when it comes to the time. But that's my favorite game, like maybe of all of the games next week, honestly. Uh, I do think the Dolphins get it done. Keenan was talking about in the last podcast how like looks like the Bengals will be out. Does not want to see the Broncos as the seventh seed. We might not have to. We might get the Dolphins as a seventh seed, and I don't know. They look a lot more tough as far as between the numbers, running the ball, as far as their defense in general. The defense does not look soft. I'm kind of bullish on the Dolphins, honestly. But 24-20 Dolphins. What's your analysis on this game?
The Dolphins, since Tua came back, defensively they've been playing really well.
It's crazy.
Um, that's what I think the turning point is for them. If they're going to make a push for this playoffs, I think it becomes defensively. The offense still just hasn't clicked. I know they put up 31 on the Raiders, but it's the Raiders. You're supposed to put up 31 on them. So I have it quite a bit higher, lower scoring than you. The spread I have a little bit higher. So I do think the Dolphins get to 24, but I think the Pats only get to 13.
Okay.
I think defensively they kind of shut them out.
Wow. That's big respect for the Dolphins. Not that the Pats are like a super offense here and, high explosive offense, but Drake May has been moving the ball with them. They've been very efficient. I think the most efficient team since Drake Mays took over the starting job. They've been the most efficient team in the red zone. That's big respect for the Dolphins defense, holding a Pats team to 13.
With these division battles, especially the Patriots Dolphins games, they get weird. Like I could see the Patriots winning this game. They almost beat them the first time in the season. That was without Tua. I think the Tua factor does obviously move their offense quite a bit better. And I think the defense is going to play relatively the same to where they played the first game, which I think held them to 12 points. So I got it right around there. I think we see a defensive game from them. And then the Dolphins are just going to get so many chances on offense. It might just be a bunch of field goals. Either way, I think they're getting into the 20s. So
it's going to be very close for the Dolphins. I'm looking at their schedule here. So let's assume, like we said, they win against the Pats. Packers Thursday. Then they'll have the Jets, who have nothing to play for. But as we know, divisional games, teams get up for that. But as far as this Jets teams go, I don't have much confidence in it. Aaron Rodgers could be benched by then. Who knows? So Jets after the Packers. Then they got the Texans, which that could go two ways. You could either look at that as a tough game or you could look at that as a favorable game for the Dolphins, honestly. Then they got the Niners after that. Then they'll have the Browns in Cleveland. Not a tough game. We just saw weather already pre-Thanksgiving. That's a December 29th game. That could be an extremely tough game. Then they end with the Jets. So that's a very 50-50 schedule. I could see a world where, they only lose two games. But it seems like they would more often split that. But who knows? We'll really be able to tell after this stretch right here. The Sunday-Thursday stretch will tell us a lot about the Miami Dolphins. What you got next?
I honestly wasn't expecting you to pick that game. I thought there were two games that I would have picked before it. I just realized that I didn't have a pick for the Denver Raiders game. I'm not going to pick that, but I'm just writing that in real quick. I'm going to go with the Cardinals at Seattle.
Great one.
I got to give some respect to Geno Smith. For the last 3 weeks, I've been saying Geno has no clutch. He clutched it up. Gets a rushing touchdown to win the game last week. So some respect on his name. There you go. I think this game, it's Cardinals minus 1.5 on the road. The Cardinals are leading the division right now. It would be really nice for them to win this game and pull ahead by 2 games in the division. But I don't think that happens. I think this is going to be like the craziest finish to the NFC West this year. I got Seattle winning 26-23. I think playing in Seattle is really tough with a 12th man there. So I think Cardinals come out and they look stale. I think they'll make a push at the end, tie it up, but then I think Seattle gets a little bit more clutch from Geno, goes down, kicks a field goal, wins it.
I have no idea what to do with the Cardinals week to week. They actually remind me a lot of the Dolphins, where they should be explosive on offense, but they just have this toughness to them on defense that you do not expect. Or in the Cardinals' case, it didn't seem like they had it early on, right? But they can play, as we saw with the Chargers game, as we saw with the Niners game. Even we just see them get stops. We can see them play a low-scoring game. And as I said on Wednesday's show with you and Keenan, these NFC West games, it seems to either be a shootout or the fucking ugliest game ever. Uh, in the Niners game, I think that ended in the low 20s, sure, but it wasn't exactly a great game to watch. You know what I mean? Um, you mentioned Geno. I'm gonna start dubbing him the Black Phillip Rivers because it seems like, especially in like the last 8 years of Phillip Rivers' career, it just seemed like everything was down 10 points. We're coming back, shootout, no huddle offense, and we're either winning or we're losing in heartbreaking fashion. And it seems like that's been Geno the last 2 years, really. Even when he was backing up Russ, I think he made a couple starts for him, and they were just like heartbreaking losses, run and gun type games. I want to get there. I do want to pick the Seahawks in this game. Seahawks have actually lost a few home games this year. Um, and I agree with you. I think the 12th man is an advantage. Um, I do think the Cardinals are the better, tougher team. I don't like the Seahawks offensive line. I'm actually going to go 17-13 here. Ugly ass game. Cardinals. Be rooting for the Seahawks because I want as much chaos as possible. Um, but I think the Cardinals, coming off a bye, get it done. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., despite me having a very low scoring game here, I think Harrison Jr. has one of his better games of the season so far. Great pick though, by the way. I'm gonna go with. eh, it's not a lot here. Uh, I don't know. Let's go, let's go with Cowboys Commanders. I guess this is an ugly slate we have left. Yeah, let's do Cowboys Commanders. I'll just say this. All right, I'm gonna pick the Commanders, but I do think the Cowboys are gonna surprise some people. Um, Real quick, let me fast forward to Thursday. It would be great if the Cowboys picked up the recently released Daniel Jones. That's what we all want. We want we want Daniel. You can release him right after the game for all I care, but just give us Daniel Jones versus the Giants for Thanksgiving. That way we don't gotta
Sign him a
have
2-week contract.
yeah right like 10-day deal like the NBA. Like that's all we need, right? That way we don't have to go through Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito. Could even be Trey Lance versus Tommy DeVito for all we know. I do think the Cowboys. I mean, Cowboys were in that Texans game on Monday night. The Texans were trying their hardest to let them back in that game. Commanders' offense hasn't looked great since the bye. Since the early part of the season, it's been serviceable. And honestly, they could put up points on the Cowboys. Like, there's a world. There's two different games here. I'm gonna go with the second game, but there's a world where this is a fucking blowout and the Commanders get up like I don't know, 41-17 on the Cowboys. I think they win, but I think it's low scoring. I think the Cowboys do get to 17. I'm going to go 22-17 and an ugly win for the Commanders.
I saw this thing on, I don't remember which social media it was, but it was Cliff Kingsbury and how his quarterback plays throughout the year.
Second half of the year.
Typically, exactly. Typically, through the second half of the year, his mobile quarterbacks tend to take a decline. Whether it's they pick up little injuries and they just don't want him to run anymore, so they stop designing runs for him. Whatever it is, they just slow the offense down. However, I think this is two things. This is a great game to get on track for the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
They've really struggled these last couple of weeks. Two games that they were both in. They could have won these games, and then they just let it get away from them. So this is a great bounce back for them. This is also a Dan Quinn revenge game playing his team.
It's true.
I think we could see. I'm picking it as domination from the Commanders here. I think this is a bounce back. They're going to play really well. I think the defense plays really well. I think Dan Quinn is going to know what to do to stop this team, and then maybe he even gives some sort of cues offensively to pick apart this defense. So I'm taking it 29-13, very similar to the last 2 weeks for the Cowboys. This has kind of been the exact game that they've played.
I think they kind of hang around, but just don't do enough kind of thing.
They hang around for the first half, and it's like a one-score game, and you're like, oh, maybe they're in it. And then something goes wrong in the second half. This last week, we got the double fumble, return for a touchdown, whatever it is. They're going to do something. But I think defensively, the Commanders are going to come out to play, and they're going to play really well.
CeeDee Lamb's dying to quit on this team. He's dying.
He was a DNP this week. He didn't practice.
So he's probably not playing. He's not playing tomorrow. Is he officially out?
I have no idea. I'll look into it right now.
He's dying for a fake injury either way. I mean, even if he's really injured, he still will come up with a fake injury to get the fuck away from this team. So I actually missed one game that you're probably going to pick next, and that'll probably be our last good game, really, of this week. So
looks like CeeDee Lamb is healthy. I don't know why he missed practice, but just a random DNP.
Diarrhea.
Maybe he was just sick of he was sick of Cooper Rush, and they're like, all right, just take the day off. We don't care. The last good game I have is Bears versus Vikings. I think we get a defensive stout in this one. I think we've seen Sam Darnold be bad, and I think that's what we see this game. I think we see a little bit of good from Darnold, but I think he's going to throw a couple picks. That's going to lead to their demise. They are 3.5-point favorites in Chicago, but I got the Bears winning 19-17. This time on a game-winning field goal that is not blocked.
Exercises his demons. Oh, man. This Vikings team, I can't believe they're 7-2. Like, when I was looking at the standings the other day, like, it seems like they've lost more, like, over the last few weeks, but they've just won ugly, really, honestly, in spite of Sam Darnold. And he hasn't been terrible, but he's been shaky enough. You can see it in the pocket. He's got happy feet in the pocket more than he was the first few weeks. Tim, I agree with you completely. I got the Bears winning this game. I got it low scoring. I want to say the exact same score as you. We'll say 17-16. 1-point game, 1-point victory for the Bears. Maybe it's a Caleb Williams touchdown. Maybe they're down late, inch ahead of them. But, yeah, it's going to be an ugly game for sure. This game's in Chicago, too, correct?
Yep, which is weird why they're 3.5-point favorites on the road.
That's a lot of respect for the Vikings. Yeah. The Bears, I guess, showed us enough last week. Caleb Williams got the ball out quicker. He wasn't holding on to the ball. So, yeah, we're giving – not only are the odds makers giving the Vikings a lot of respect, we're giving Caleb Williams and the Bears a lot of respect here for even holding fort in this game. But it does seem like the Vikings are due for a loss. The Bears are good enough, talented all around enough to where they should make life hell on Darnold for most of this game. So I agree with you. Let's go Chiefs Panthers. I'm intrigued by this game because the Chiefs are a 10.5-point favorite. Chiefs never seem to cover when it's this type of line. Panthers coming off a bye. They've looked okay. They haven't looked like god awful the last few weeks like they had prior. Actually coming off a win, coming against your Giants. I really don't know what to make of this game. I can't see the Panthers winning, but I can't exactly see the Chiefs blowing them out either. What do you got? What's your analysis on this game before I pick a score?
I think coming off the bye, the Panthers are looking to build on what they did. In Germany, I think they're going to play pretty well defensively, which is crazy because they don't have many pieces on defense, but it seems to be working enough. They've been competitive in these last few games. I definitely don't have them covering. I don't have the Chiefs covering. I'm pretty sure there's a stat where it's like when the Chiefs are more than a touchdown favorite, they don't cover. And they're 10.5-point favorites right here. So
I want to say they're close to 500 when it comes to covering a big spread. Like it's like pretty close. So
yeah, interesting. It is really tough. Like part of me wants to say the Chiefs are pissed at this loss this last week, and they come out and they just exercise their demons and they win 20-0 or whatever it is. But I don't think that's the case. I think the Panthers come out and are a little bit competitive. If it was in Arrowhead, 100%, I would say this defense comes alive and just shuts the Carolina Panthers down and they don't score anything. But I'm picking at 20-16. I have it kind of competitive, but lower scoring is what I think is going to happen.
I'm actually going to go 28-20. The Panthers do not have a good defense, and that's really the Chiefs' saving grace. Honestly, if the Panthers had any sort of defense at all that was consistent, I might even pick them in this game just because of what we've seen out of Kansas City's offense. Um, or maybe at least pick them to keep it close. Maybe not pick them all the way. But D-Hop's been a welcome addition. He seems to have chemistry with Mahomes. It's hard to imagine that the Chiefs are going to take this game any sort of seriously, especially with a weird Friday game coming up. It seems like the game they'll try to jog through, but I also think the Panthers defense just isn't good, right? It seems like they could get to at least 28, maybe 25. I'll lower it a little bit. Let's say 25-17. Chiefs, Panthers are pretty competitive, but listless game nonetheless. I don't think there's going to be a moment in this game where we think the Panthers are actually going to win. But I do think the Chiefs offense gets going a little bit. But I'm very interested to see how Bryce Young looks the second half of the season. It does seem like the bust whispers or the unimpressive whispers have kind of gone down a little bit. He looks at least consistent. He looks at least in like the Daniel Jones class or something like that. Funny to say because he got released, but he does look like he can at least move the ball. He looks a little more confident in the pocket, so I guess that's good news for the Panthers.
I think I just lost my train of thought. My brain has. Last year the Eagles were that 10-1 team, and then it all went downhill.
Mm-hmm.
I pray that that's what happens to the Chiefs. Even as I picked them to win the Super Bowl preseason, I pray that that's what happens, and they finish this season like 10-7 or whatever it is, and they start coughing up these games. But I don't think it'll be at Carolina that's going to do it to them. So
let me just say, like, we got last Black Friday for the first Black Friday game. We got Dolphins versus Tim Boyle in the Jets. And it was like awful, but it was entertaining in a way that, just the Jets train wreck. And like the Dolphins at least had some explosive plays in that game. Raiders versus Chiefs is a fucking terrible game. Like, what were they thinking? At least when they scheduled Dolphins Jets last year, you thought it was going to be Rodgers versus Tua. This, it was always going to be Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. It was always going to be that. Okay, I get it, getting the Chiefs on a Friday game. I completely understand that. You want your storybook team right here going for a three-peat. You want them on that Friday game. I get it. Why the Raiders? Why not even the Broncos with the Sean Payton factor? Why not? You could have thrown the Steelers there instead of Christmas, which they're making a huge deal out of that Christmas Day game. Can't wait to talk about that when it comes around because that's an interesting stretch for the Chiefs. But I'm super disappointed in the NFL, who normally gets it right. Why the Raiders? Any team but the Raiders. You could have threw that Raiders game anywhere. That could have been their last game of the season. Anyone but the Raiders. So I'm disappointed. But
two things on that. I think it was because last year on Christmas we had Chiefs Raiders, and the Raiders won that football game.
They did.
So maybe they were looking, Antonio Pierce is the guy. Let's put him in there, and he'll do it again.
He'll put a stop to the Chiefs.
Yeah, right. He's their kryptonite. 2 times all time for Antonio Pierce. If he beats him again.
On holidays specifically. It's got to be on the holidays.
Specifically, he comes out and he just coaches this old 80s level football where they just play defense and run the football really well, and they win games 14-3 or whatever.
Man.
So there's that. And then if it is what I said and the Chiefs start losing games, I could see him coughing it up. I really could. The Raiders, they scored 19 last week. If they play like that and their defense plays good, they could beat them 19-16. It wouldn't really surprise me.
Damn, you're giving away an early pick almost already.
I don't know if I'm going to pick that. I really don't. Let's see how they play this weekend. If we're turning around and the Chiefs lose this weekend, hell yeah. I'll tell you right now, if the Chiefs lose this weekend, I will pick the Raiders to beat them on Black Friday.
All right, let's have a mini conversation about this. So they're 10.5 at Carolina, which is a warm weather city. Okay. I don't think there's much of a difference between Carolina and Vegas. Vegas probably has better position players. Even still, if you want to say Jacoby Myers, definitely with Max Crosby. They got a better defense. QB is a huge question mark. Like I'd take Bryce Young over the both of Minshew and O'Connell right now. What do you think? I'm going to assume that's going to be a 7.5 line. Is that fair to say? Going into Friday?
It'll probably be higher. Like I bet you it's 9.5.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think they give it a divisional boost to 7.5, but 9.5, and so okay, okay. Well, let's segue. Never mind. That's your pick. Unless that was going to be your pick, Broncos Raiders. Because do you think? Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. I'm going to forfeit your pick right now, Tim. Because now I want you to make the case. Now, what do you think this Broncos Raiders game is going to look like? Because I think it's either going to be a Broncos blowout or the game that it really could be, which is a low scoring, ugly ass 13-13 game. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it ended in that. Now you got me really wanting to hear, like, what's the case here for this Raiders team? I know this was your team before. They haven't met expectations. Do you think they could kind of get the Broncos in a trap game situation here? Broncos are kind of flying high.
I definitely was thinking about picking them for a trap game. Kind of, put down the Broncos. Like you said, they've been flying high. They've been winning games ways they shouldn't have been. Like, if you asked me week 7 how the Broncos would win that game against Atlanta, I wouldn't have said a 30-point blowout. No shot. I would have never said that.
Right. I think we both picked the Broncos to win last week, but I never would have guessed.
Did.
I thought it would have been tough for Atlanta, but 38-6. I don't know.
It was actually funny because you had one of your wisest wagers was under in that game,
44 and a half, just barely.
And I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, please, Bo Nix, you don't need to go down and score any more points. Please just let the game run out. And
I was scared to death early on in the game.
Tried.
I'm like, what kind of game is this going to be? Jesus Christ.
So we can go Raiders, Denver. I got no problem with that. Denver's 5.5-point favorites at Las Vegas. It makes sense. I think Denver is still good enough defensively to where if their offense comes out and lays an egg, they'll still probably win this game. So I'm picking Denver to win this football game. It doesn't rely this week on how the Raiders play. It's how the Chiefs play this week for me to pick the Raiders next week is how I'm going to take that.
Okay.
So I got Denver winning. Lower scoring game. I got it 20-14. I think we get a close one. I think it's a defensive battle, but I think the Broncos will pull it out eventually.
Tim, you led the show saying I think we're going to get some weird upsets this week. Divisional game. We've been talking way more Raiders in the last 3 minutes than I've ever expected, honestly. And we even said leading into this, Broncos riding high. Seems like they're due for a loss. That's really all the case I have. I'm going to pick the Raiders, but that's it. Like, I think this is your typical, this team's riding high, beat of the NFL schedule where you just get one that catches you. And honestly, like, if Tua was playing this entire season and the Dolphins were on a roll right now, this Patriots game would be perfect for that. Patriots are playing good but not good enough type of thing. That's been the Raiders the whole entire year. Yet we've seen them be competitive weirdly in some of these games. Even that Dolphins game last week, they were in that game most of it until they got a late turnover. Dolphins kind of pulled away. I'm going to go 16-13, not the 13-13 I initially forecasted. So Raiders by a field goal. I do think it's going to be an ugly game. If they continue on and win this game, the Broncos, obviously we've had to take them serious as a playoff team for a few weeks now. They've been kind of locked into that 7th seed. But we really got to take Bo Nix, Rookie of the Year, seriously. And we really almost got to take them seriously. This is early to say, but we almost got to take them serious enough for an upset in Wild Card Weekend, because just to win consecutively like that and have that mindset as a young team, as a team that had no expectations, I know it's just the Raiders. I know it's still a divisional game, and it's still a team that kind of matches up well, at least from a defensive perspective, because Bo Nix really doesn't want to throw deep and all that. So if the Broncos, especially if they win by a margin, they win by 10 plus, I think we really do have to start taking the Broncos seriously. But I am going to roll with the Raiders. Your pick seems how it was kind of a double pick for me there. I randomly decided it was going to be Snake in this round. So your pick.
Take 2 in a row.
Yeah.
With that, too, what you were just saying is they could upset. Something that could be really interesting is if the Chiefs lose a couple games and they finish as the 2 seed, they could be looking right at the number 7 seed Denver Broncos, and it wouldn't surprise me. That'd be a very interesting.
Let's talk Chiefs just real quick, because we only got a few games left here. Steelers lose to the Browns, which, like you said, we all picked it, but now they're at 3 losses. let's assume, like we both said, the Ravens win. They'll be stuck on 4 losses still, and they'll still have games against the Steelers, and they'll still have another game against the Browns, I believe. Um, it really seems like then after that, it would only be the Bills who have a real shot at that number 1 seed. The Bills have a bit of a tougher schedule than the Chiefs. But do you think, and I don't want to say like, because we kind of already talked about the Chiefs Friday night game, do you think the Bills have a realistic chance of getting it, or do you think the Chiefs kind of walk through their cake schedule? Because I know you're picking them, or I know you're saying they could have a decline, but their schedule is almost too easy. I think they got really their tough games left is that Christmas stretch where they got the Texans and the Steelers back to back.
They got Texans, Steelers. They have another Chargers game.
That they do.
The Browns game is intriguing because it's in Cleveland.
Chiefs have the Browns.
Yep.
Okay.
In Cleveland.
Okay.
That's December 15th.
Actually, didn't realize that.
They finish out the season at Denver. So they look like cupcake games, but I think they'll all be very competitive, one-score football games.
Browns, like as long as Jameis is playing for a contract or playing for a job, like there's no reason why he couldn't start for the Browns next year, honestly, especially if he's under contract. They could absolutely lose that game. I mean, that's in Cleveland, you said as well?
Yep.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to bookmark that because that is a little bit of a tougher schedule than it seemed. Just with Jameis actually having something to play for. Jerry Jeudy's low-key looked kind of incredible for the Browns. Like, he's looked super reliable, and that defense ain't going nowhere, especially at home, especially if you get weather like you did the other night. Maybe not a blizzard, but as long as you got wind and snow, that's very favorable for Cleveland. And their fans bring it too, so that's a real home field advantage. Bills, they got a tougher schedule, but, man, they just seem to just win, take notes, keep on going. Like, they're just kind of flying under the radar. It's tough to say after that Chiefs game that they're under the radar, but they really have been just kind of coasting along, winning, handling their business.
Like you said, the Bills do have a tough schedule, but they get the 49ers next week. Maybe Purdy's not
Could
back
be without
next
Purdy.
week. We have no idea. Then their toughest games are the Rams, and then they play the Lions.
I was going to say, I thought they had the Lions. That's in Detroit, must be?
Yep, in Detroit.
That'll be a great
December
game.
15th.
That'll be a great game.
So they're sitting at, 2 losses right now?
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a chance to just finish with, 4 losses. And I think the Chiefs could easily get to 4 losses the way they've been playing. So
it would have to be the 3.
think...
It would have to be the 3 we said, whether it's some mix of the Texans, Chargers, that other Chargers game, and then the Steelers, and then the Browns, like we said. That Browns one now looks trappish, depending on how
it would be great if they lost to the Broncos in the final week of the season. Like, if the Broncos are playing for a playoff spot, I could see them losing that football game. So
that's the thing. It should be close enough by that time. Whether the Broncos have piled up some losses by then, they should still at least be in the picture to where they're still battling against maybe the Bengals, the Dolphins, one of those teams. Yeah, I think the Chiefs really could fall out, which will have major ramifications for the AFC playoff picture. Go ahead. What's your pick?
So we only got 2 games left by my calculations.
Both disgusting.
And one of the games does at least feature my football team that I might have to switch. Buccaneers are 5.5-point favorites at the Giants.
Who would be your team that you
MetLife.
switch to if you were going to switch from the Giants? Like
It would be really easy to jump on the Detroit Lions bandwagon.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
As it is right now, I'm rooting for them.
Yeah.
Like, if they make the playoffs, every game they play, I'm a Lions fan. Like, you can't even.
They're America's team at this point. Like, no one's
really
going to hate
are.
the Lions until they win it. And even then, we still might love them a little bit.
It would be such like a dopamine high to hop on the Lion bandwagon train, watch them make it to the Super Bowl, lose, and then just be a perennial terrible team for the next 15 to 20 years again. Like that.
They just
that
fall
would
right
be
off the
so
cliff
Detroit.
immediately.
Yep. Like, whatever it is, Jared Goff gets hurt, and then they're gone, and it's just everything out.
I asked that because Brandon Petty, Jaguars fan, he often says like in years like this when it's going bad for the Jaguars or if they have like a 3-game losing streak, he'd be like, "Fuck it, I'm focused on the Atlanta Falcons." And I never know if he's like joking. He seems half serious, but I can never really tell. So that's why I asked. But the Lions would be a good team. Real quick, just to segue because we were talking about the Chiefs. if it were the Chiefs going for a three-peat facing the Lions, that would be an insane Super Bowl. Like so many people, everyone watches the Super Bowl anyway, but that would truly be like all of America against the Chiefs, especially with it being the Lions being the true just underdog team. Like they've been a poverty franchise up until the last 2-3 seasons. Um, that would be a wild lead up the 2 weeks. Like I don't think I could even stomach it because it would be so insane, especially if the Chiefs won and broke all of our hearts. That would just be outright disgusting, honestly. But
It would truly be America versus the Kansas City Chiefs,
it
and that's
for
kind of
sure
how it
would
was
be.
last year. But I think almost every person is like, "Yeah, we get it. Detroit's been so bad for so long. It would be great to see them win." And they're just a fun team to
Yeah, and they've
watch,
been dominant
you
and
know.
fun, like you said. Like
And they're easy to like root for. Like Dan Campbell, that guy could make me run through a brick wall. I guarantee it. So like, it's just easy to jump on the train.
one of my good friends, I'll say this real quick before you go. I keep interrupting, but one of my good friends, Aaron Medley, big Chiefs fan. Shouts to Aaron. He actually said to me last week, he goes, if there was one other team that I would like to see win, and it wasn't the Chiefs, it would actually be the Lions. So big respect from him too. So
He might have to see it come true February.
I can't take another Chiefs Super Bowl. I can't do it. If they were an exciting team, if they were like the Kelsey, Tyreek Hill Chiefs, okay, cool. But it disgusts me that they got this win streak going. Finally snapped, obviously, by the Bills, but they should not be 10-1. That's all. That's all. All right. Giants, Bucks.
Giants Bucks 5.5 point favorites. Bucks are coming off the bye. The Bucks get Michael Evans back in this football game. I don't think I've ever called him Michael
I don't
Evans.
think anyone's ever called him Michael Evans. The very first. He's confirmed back. Like that's 100%.
Yeah, they said he's going to play. I could totally see a scenario though where he plays like a half. The way I'm picking this game, I think he plays a half. I think the Bucks come out and they are going to dominate in the first half. That's what I think is going to happen. Both these teams coming off the bye, by the way, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the Giants. I don't really know what the bye is going to prepare them for. They're trying to get the number one pick. They're starting Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets. I have the Buccaneers rolling to a 30-16 point win. So 14 points, easily covering the spread. I think we get a full offensive play here, and then I think pretty much defensively, we're not going to see much from the Giants. I think Tracy probably looks okay. I don't think DeVito's going to look good. I really don't. But hell, maybe he just throws it to Malik and he does all the work for him. But
I do think it's going to be a heavy Malik Neighbors centric offense. You ask what the Giants could prepare for. I really think it's just like Italian themed celebrations for when they do score. Like that's the only thing I can imagine them practicing. Um, I'm actually going to give out one of my wisest wagers right now. Uh, and you kind of said it for me. You have you have the Buccaneers winning big at 5.5. Alt line that shit up to 10.5. You can probably get plus money for it. I didn't even look at it, but I'm sure it's plus money. It's definitely plus money. Let me look right now. But I can't imagine that the Giants and Tommy DeVito, aka Danny DeVito, as Tim called him last podcast, I just can't imagine them being able to keep it within 10. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks won by 20 in this one. Um, they should be able to move the ball. Yes, the Bucks offense hasn't looked great, or sorry, their defense hasn't looked great. You can move the ball on them, but DeVito really doesn't have any ability. I mean, he was their third string quarterback. Drew Lock in normal situations would be playing. Giants are obviously tanking on the season. Um, I'm going to go with the Bucks. You said 34-16.
30-16.
30-16. I'll go 34-16 then. We'll make it basically the same play. Let me see exactly though. Come back to me at the end of the show and I'll give you the 10.5. And then Texans Titans. Guess this is technically my pick. This is a disgusting game. I do not want to watch a second of it. I never want to watch the Titans because they've been one of the more boring teams outside of Will Levis just being Will Levis. Texans, they've been just as boring. That's the sad part about it. We've alluded to this week by week. They just play way below their excitement level. And then you see when they do get a 77-yard touchdown that they clearly practiced coming off their bye. Like they definitely practiced that for 2 weeks straight. And what happens? Laramie Tunzel, an eligible man downfield. Are you kidding me? I'm not saying they're not well coached because I do think they're well coached. I think D'Amico Ryan's a good coach. but they are disappointing. I don't think they're going to do anything in the playoffs. I don't want to say Stroud's taken a step back, but he hasn't been ultra impressive either. So I do almost want to pick the Titans. It seems like in a week where it could just be chalk. It's never chalk in the NFL, even though I think, what was it, week 4 or 5, we had an actual chalk week where every favorite covered or every favorite at least won. I want to pick the Titans. I really do. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm behind enough in these games, though I'm making some ground. I am going to pick the Titans. 17-14. 17-14. Either way, whether it's a Texans win, Titans win, whatever, I think it's going to be a terrible game, and I think it's going to be in that ballpark. Like, I don't think anybody gets above 23 in this game. So 17-14 Titans, just disgusting. No one watched this game unless you're a Texans or Titans fan. Even then, don't watch this game.
The only thing, so I agree with everything you just said. The Texans have just been super disappointing. They should be winning these football games by large margins. They finally get a large margin, and it's against the Cowboys. Like, of course, they should have won that game by 20-something points. Like, we get it. Against bad teams, they should beat them up, and this is a bad team. So for them to be a contender, I need them to win this game by 20 points. That's what I want to see.
Fair.
Is a dominating game where they score 34 and they hold the team to 20, like something like that, or to 10.
The Texans we thought were coming into the season, like that's exactly the result we should get, and they've been banged up since then. But Mixon's look great. I mean, that's their favorite thing to do is give him the ball. He does look explosive. He does look like a top 5 back as much as they feature him. But I don't know. Who knows? I mean, maybe if Nico has a big game, maybe they could. So are you picking a 20-point victory here for the Texans?
Hell no. I don't think that they're a true contender. So if they win this game by 20, then sure, maybe I'll start to think that they're a contender. But I don't think that's the Texans that we got. Also, to speak on ineligible man downfield penalties, I think this is the stupidest penalty in the entire NFL. Most of the time, they're throwing the ball, and that guy being 1 yard over the line makes no difference. The ball is 30 yards downfield. He's not going to sprint to make a block. He hasn't gotten an advantage making a block at the line of scrimmage either. Like, it infuriates to see that penalty happen, because most of the time when it happens, it's after the play is already completed downfield. Mm-hmm. They see that they're 3 yards downfield. They wait for the quarterback to throw it. They catch it, they're running, and then they throw the flag. And it's just so, annoying to see that. I want to see the big plays. I want to see them do these things. And I don't think Laramie Tunsil being 2 yards downfield is really going to make a difference on if Nico gets that 75-yard touchdown or not. But sorry to rant on that. I think this is going to be an ugly game. I don't want to watch this as much as you don't want to watch this. I don't think Houston covers. I got it 20-16. I completely understand why you would pick the Titans to win this one. If there's a game that I think is going to be an upset this week, I think it's this one right here. And I think it's because the Titans defense is good, and if they can give Stroud any sort of problem or limit Mixon at all, like if they limit Mixon and they put it all on Stroud, I think they win this game. So, and I think they could do it. They have a decent run defense.
For sure. And you said it exactly. Like, it's hard to imagine if any team bottles up Mixon, what are you really going to do after that? Tank Dell plays pretty well. Nico completely unlocks this offense. But it just doesn't seem like they're firing on all cylinders, and it doesn't seem like they're trying to fire on all cylinders. I'm glad you mentioned the ineligible receiver downfield and your rant on it, because I have seen more of that penalty, which I get with the influx of RPO. But I've seen more of that penalty on a play like that opening play for the Texans more in the last 2 years than I ever have in my football viewing life. I would say that and illegal shifts I've seen more than ever over the last 2 or 3 years. It's insane. And I do wonder if they're going to maybe try to add more clarity or maybe like some sort of nuance to that rule as far as the ineligible man downfield in this offseason, because it is – you see it in almost every game. You for sure see it every week now, which was definitely not the case 10 years ago. You see it damn near every game now. It's insane.
Now, real quick, I I don't know if they've changed this rule or not. When I played football in high school, I get it, high school rules are way different, but a lot of the times they model after the NFL or they model after college, whatever it is. In high school, you could be 5 yards downfield. Beyond that is now a penalty. The NFL, you get 1 yard. If you go beyond that 1 yard, that's a penalty. So I don't know if it was 5 yards downfield and then they tweaked it back to 1 yard. So that's why we're seeing it way more often, is because that cushion is not there anymore. I want to look into that and see if that is the case, but we see it too much. And
1 yard
it's
seems
just
pretty
annoying.
harsh.
It really does.
Like I could see 3 yards. 3 yards makes sense. And I'm not sure what the
Give 'em
college
some-
rule is, obviously, but
Because when they're running like a screen pass, those linemen are trying to get downfield to make those blocks. I get it. Like, do they need them to drop into like a full pass block before they start running downfield just so they make sure that they're not 1 yard over the line of scrimmage? Like, it's just really tough to have it at 1 yard. And then, like you said, the illegal shift, I feel like they're just calling them to call them. They're not even real. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers Giants game, they called it on Malik Neighbors. That wasn't an illegal shift. He was in motion. He's allowed to move laterally with the line of scrimmage. As long as he doesn't get a running start, we're good. And they called it anyways. And we've seen it in other games where that's the case. They call an illegal shift on somebody that's in motion who can be moving. And it's just like, we need some sort of clarity. Are they trying to crack down on these? I don't know why. It's not really like changing the game. If anything, it's making the games more boring because we're losing these big plays because of it.
completely. Wisest wagers. What do you got, Tim?
I have to get you the odds on my second one.
Okay.
You quickly jumped in to your wisest wager with the Bucs game. I almost gave you mine right there. But I didn't. I held off. But I'm also going with the Bucs game. Baker Mayfield over 1.5 touchdowns, passing touchdowns.
Love that.
I think that's an easy line. It's minus 102, so it's damn near even money. Might as well toss it into a parlay. I think that hits pretty easily.
I love that.
And then
So go with that in the money line?
go with that in the money line.
Gets
Hell,
you
you could.
plus?
Oh yeah, and you'd be plus right there. Even with betting the spread's difficult, but
Oh, yeah.
you could definitely do some sort of teaser with it right there, and you're already into plus money. The next one, I think we're going to see the Detroit defense play really well. So I'm going to take Anthony Richardson to throw an interception.
Oh, yeah.
There was a section in the season where it was like, you could bet this every single week, and it hit every single week. Like, so
I think that's
just
the
gotta
entire
find it.
season. I still think that's still going to ring true. What is it, like minus 120?
Minus 156 to throw an interception. It's plus 120 to not throw an interception. So they think he's throwing one.
You can't parlay the interception ones, right?
No,
Those aren't
it'll do the
SGPs.
weird combination thing. But those are my two. I also just want to say, since we pulled on these wisest wagers, we've only missed one. And we've given like 3 or 4 every single week since we started. I think we've done this, 3-4 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So we got some good advice. I'm just saying.
We are on a heat. We're on a heater right now. We are. I'll give you that. This week scares me. I opened the show with this. Like, this week scares the hell out of me. And I think, honestly, like, just going back and forth, we've seemed to be in line with a lot of these picks. So that also scares me. That being said, we said Keenan cursed us by not going with the Steelers. And it went the way, like, all three of us said. Like, we all forecasted the game exactly right with our scores pretty much. So, all right, let me first give you I said 10.5 for the Bucs over the Giants. That'll get you at plus 190. That's one. So alt line the Bucs minus 10.5. You get plus 190 for that. All right. Then, as we talked about, we think Titans-Texans is going to be an ugly game. You can get that at 40.5. Take the under on that. Alt line that if you want to be safe. And you know what? I'll say this. This isn't really a wisest wager, but at 39.5, I think Vikings and Bears is going to be ugly as well. Those offenses are capable. So maybe tease that up to 46.5 if you want. If you want to put a full touchdown up and parlay that with something else, because you'll probably get that at minus 3 something. I'm not looking at it right now, but my assumption would be it'd be like around minus 360. Parlay that with the Baker Mayfield touchdowns or something like that. You get plus money eventually. But under at 40.5 for Titans Texans, minus 10.5 for the Bucks, and then the third that I'll give out, Patriots to cover 7.5. I think we get that. And if you wanted, you could even take the over there, but that one's at 46.5. That's a very sharp number. And like me and Tim said, that could go either way. I could see that being a 2017 game, or I could see it being a 28-24 game. Either way there. So take the Patriots to cover at 7.5. You're kind of getting a gift with that 0.5. So take that hook. So yeah, Pats, Buccaneers to cover the all line, and then Titans, Texans under. You got any more? You got one more? Want to make it a 3 on each, or are you going with those two?
I don't have any good ones because I think the ones that I would say are like Lions money line, and I'm pretty sure that's minus like 700 or something right now.
Right.
So
It is
no good odds, no good value.
What is their money line actually? Minus 390. And then at 7.5 to cover, minus 104. But yeah, that's one that could go either way. It's either for sure a blowout in the Lions direction, or that the Colts, I don't think the Colts win the game, but I do think they could play it close. So I think it's either a close Colts cover or just an absolute blowout for the Lions.
What's the over under in that game?
50.5.
50. I could see that going over. I think
it seems like it would. It seems like it would. Like, it seems like you could at least get it. I think
over 40, over 46. I think is a lock.
Yeah,
for sure. But that's probably not too bad.
Yeah, it seems like they would definitely go over 45. Like, did you pick 34-14?
I picked 31-23. So I got it 54 points.
I definitely see it getting in that ballpark. Again, I think the Lions definitely at least get to 30. Don't see them getting 27 and below. And then the Colts should be able to score. You can at least get big yards in the Lions once in a while. It's not a dominant defense. And they're explosive enough. They got Jonathan Taylor. They got a great group of receivers. And Anthony Richardson, if nothing else, like Tim said, he's definitely going to throw a pick. But he's going to throw a pick. He can throw a terrible Will Levis-esque pick, but he can also throw a pick trying to take some chances. So we at least know he's going to take some chances. That should lead to some points. I don't see it being 40-6 or 54-6 like last week or whatever it was. So yeah, I do see the Colts being able to put something on the board. But that's your WBP Wisest Wagers once again. Like Tim said, we're on a hot streak here last few weeks. Tim, any final thoughts?
Nothing on the dome right now.
I agree. I think it's a good week. It's a weird week. I'm very skeptical of this week. Just from a betting perspective, like we said, like it's a scary one because it could very well be chalk, but the NFL's never chalk. But I mean, I picked the upsets that would be, I guess, the most scary would be the Texans or the Broncos on a heater right now, facing lesser teams. I'm very much looking forward to the Thanksgiving games. Hopefully we can get our schedules to align for these picks on Wednesday, and we'll go from there. But I'm very much looking forward. I'm like looking ahead to next week, almost like I'm playing a game. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of these teams. I'm looking ahead to next week and the slate that we got. But we should get some at least entertaining games tomorrow. So, Tim, great talking to you. Warner Brothas Podcast. We're out of here. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. I think we're even on. Who knows? We're on all that shit at Warner Brothas Podcast. This was Kyle. This was Timmy G. Keenan, hope to see you next week. We're out of here.